Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today to learn about, green careers. I'm so glad that you are part of the Empower Schools program and that you are moving along with the program as a classroom, as a school. We are super excited to have you as part of the Empower Schools team. Today, you will work on your green career lesson, and we have a special guest. Our special guest is Giovanna Bonadonna. She's a researcher, and she's a wildlife and conservation biologist. And through this presentation, she will tell us what does that mean, what does she do in her life, and how did she get there. So thank you so much, Giovanna, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm more than happy to share my experience with you. And I hope that you guys are going to be inspired by experience and maybe you realize today you want to be a wildlife and conservation biologist as well. So I work at Washington University in St. Louis. I am a researcher here. And what does it mean to do what I do? What does it mean to be a wildlife biologist and a conservation biologist? So I'm a researcher, so I study something. What do I study? I study lemurs in the rainforest of Madagascar. Lemurs are primates like us, kind of monkeys, not really, but similar to monkeys. And they're primates, and humans, us, are primates too. So they are like our distant cousins. I study them in their natural environment, which is the island of Madagascar. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in the next slides. In my daily job is supervise the people that are working in the field collecting data on lemurs. I collect data on lemurs myself. And then also I provide training for the students I work with and all the people in Madagascar that are working with us. And of course, the best part is to actually following the lemurs in the forest and look what they do and record, all the data about them. Once we are done with the field data collection, we go back to the university and we analyze the data we collected. And the main goal is to write scientific articles so that other scientists can read our work and can learn new things about lemurs, new things about how to protect them in their environment, and basically share what we know about these animals with other people. Also, we have to write grants because we have to look for money to actually do what we are trying to do. So as I said, I work in Madagascar. Madagascar is a very, very big island. It's the fourth largest island in the world in the Indian Ocean, kind of like in the corner of Africa. And probably you have heard about Madagascar because of the popular movie that I don't know if you watch it or not, but it's really funny. So the first Madagascar is lemurs in it, and they are these cute, messy, and very active animals that you have in this movie. And I put the red arrows here. Now, in reality, there are a lot of species of lemurs in Madagascar. There are about 107 species because Madagascar is so special and is this big island. So we have a lot of animals that we can find only there. Not just lemurs, but birds, reptiles, such as chameleon, frogs. But lemurs are really very well-known example of the richness in this diversity that there is in Madagascar. And the reason why we are so interested in that is also because most of them are threatened with extinction, which means that basically their numbers are getting smaller, smaller, and smaller, and eventually all lemurs are going to disappear from the planet if we don't do something about it. And they only live in Madagascar, so really we either work where they are or we are going to lose them forever. As I said, there are 107 species, so for me it would be impossible to work with all of them, but I'm specialized with working on 3 species of lemurs. One is the Indri, which is the one that you see in this picture. They live in family group, and they pair with their babies until when they grow up. And the most characteristic thing is that they communicate with a song that is used to tell to the other injuries, the other families, hey, this is my house, I live here, so don't come into my place because you have your own. That's why they sing so loud. And they don't survive in zoos, so you won't be able to see these lemurs in the zoos if you go to visit your local zoo, but they only live in Madagascar. And I put here a video of a song to give you an idea of what it is like. And hopefully it should work, but
we cannot hear it.
It's not working.
It's not working. I can send the presentation to...
Maybe we do it at the end if we have time, or you can send it. Yeah, it's also on YouTube, so you can actually look for it. But I recorded this video myself, so that's why. But yeah, they have this trumpet-like sound. You can, listen later or at the end of the presentation if you have the chance. Okay, the other species I work with is called Sifaka. There are several species of Sifaka. I studied this one that is called Diadem Sifaka, and they have this orange color, and they live in bigger groups with different males and females. Like they can be up to 8 individuals. I took these pictures in the forest where I work. They have very cute babies. They love to eat leaves, but they also eat fruits, especially seeds, and they are very playful. The last species I work with is called black and white ruffed lemurs. One thing I forgot, I'm sorry, is that also this species is not in zoos. It doesn't survive well in captivity, but there are similar species that are also Sifakas that you can find in zoos, just their color is different. They live in a different place in Madagascar. Black and white ruffed lemurs, they love to eat fruits, and they also like to take very long naps. And the reason they do that is because these fruits that they really like, basically they only eat fruits. They are not always available in abundance all year round. So when there are not a lot of fruits around in the forest, they sleep a lot so they can save energy. And even if there is not a lot of food, they're still gonna be fine. This is a species that you can definitely find in zoos. There are a lot of zoos that have black and white ruffed lemurs. I only studied them in the wild. Zoos also have the similar species with the red ruffed lemurs, which is similar, just that it's red and black. Yes, so maybe you've seen these species in a zoo already, but I just studied them in the wild. All these 3 species that I show you are critically endangered, which means that is the step before going extinct. So they're very close to disappear from the planet. And the main reason is that they only live in the rainforest of Madagascar. And there used to be a lot of forests, but then over time, people start to cut down the forest because they needed the space for other reasons. For example, to grow rice or to grow, basically to make it agricultural land. So basically they are losing their habitat, and sometimes they're also hunted. So it is the main reason why they're going extinct is because they're losing the place where they live. And that's why it's so important to work in Madagascar to prevent that from happening. That's basically the main goal of our job. So when I go to Madagascar, I have to go to these forests that are very remote places. How do I get there? Mostly, there are not a lot of streets. Mostly they're just paths in the woods and rivers. So normally I have to arrive at my field site taking boats for hours. Sometimes the river is nice, sometimes it's not. And then we walk for a lot, like hours, maybe 10 hours or whatever, to reach the place where we need to go. And there are people that help us and carry all our luggage on the way. And then we also take breaks because we need that for sure. So it's interesting to get to these remote places. So this is where I live when I am in the forest. So sometimes we stay in camp at the study site. Normally there are universities or organizations that have houses, so researchers can stay there and sleep there and have, you know, kind of like showers. And other times, the groups we study are so far inside the forest, it would be impossible for us to hike back and forth. And so we have to sleep in tents in the forest and kind of like having camping, having to camp inside the forest, which is also, if you are into that, is actually fun. But I guess it depends on the person. One of the most important part of my job is to work with people locally, because as I said, the final goal is that we preserve the forest. So we have to help the local people to have a job that protects the forest rather than cut it down. So it's very important we work with local people and teach them a new job, and train them so they can work helping us to conserve the forest and the lemurs. And also I work with students that are like far in their, you know, academic path, so that they can become then the leaders of the future in their country to achieve these conservation goals. What do I do when I'm in the forest every day? Mostly I look at the lemurs. This is plenty obvious now. And we follow them from the morning until when they go to sleep. Because the group we follow are used to us following them. If they're completely wild, they wouldn't, like, they just run away, but they are used to us, so they don't run away anymore. So we can collect all the behavioral data. So basically we really write down everything they do, what they eat, where they go. And also another very extremely important thing that might seem strange is that we collect their poop. Their poop is very precious because there are a lot of information we can get from poops. Like we know if they are related or not, if they are having bugs, like diseases. We can know if their population is healthy. So we really can get a lot of information, basically from the DNA that we find in the poops. Once we are done, we work in the field, we go back to the lab where we can do a lot of lab work with the genetic analysis from the poops we collected. And also we analyze all the data about their behavior and where they were going. So there is a lot of work actually that involves being in the office and just typing on a laptop and do things in the lab for like genetic analysis. Which are the benefits? So I kind of like found that 3 main benefits from my job. The first, and maybe is the most obvious, is biodiversity conservation. Biodiversity means, you know, all these different species that we want to keep existing on the planet. We don't want them to go extinct. And Madagascar is so important from that point of view that is considered a so-called a biodiversity hotspot. It means there are a lot of species that you can find only there. So we need to learn more about these animals that are going extinct and the places where they live to protect them better. We also offer new opportunities for people. As I said, working with people is really important for a conservation biologist. So we have to train and teach new skills to people so they can learn about the place where they live, because maybe they don't know these things are just in Madagascar because nobody told them. Like for them, it's totally normal to have lemurs in their backyard, but you know, nobody told them they just live in Madagascar. So we teach them actually about the importance of the places where they live, and so they can learn how to work in harmony with the environment. And then, of course, of future generations. So while we are trying to save all these species today, because so that, you know, small generation like you, when you grow up, you're still going to be able to benefit from all the services that nature provides us in our daily life. What do you need to become a conservation biologist? Well, you need to communicate to people. You need to be very flexible and adaptable, because especially if you're a wildlife biologist, you need to go in the wild to study what you are studying. So you know, you don't have a lot of comfort, so you need to be flexible. And also something can happen, you need to change plan, okay? It's also important to work with other people, to have a good sense of leadership and mentorship that is not invasive on other people, but you can still lead the work. Problem solving, because something always comes up. Organization, because when you travel so much and then these places are so remote, you really need to be organized. And then, of course, from the analysis part, you know, we need a little bit of statistics. We have to write a scientific paper that uses a specific language. We need to present our results to the scientific community, so we have to be able to speak in public. And also we need to be creative, because once we have our data, we don't want to say it in a boring way. We want to find the best way to present our data, have good idea, like good questions to pose, so that we can collect interesting data. So when I was a child, of course, I like to study science. That's pretty obvious, but I was always interested. I love art and music. That was my favorite thing. And I always liked, even outside of school, reading. I was reading a lot of books, and I like writing. And of course, the best part of me, because I'm a little bit adventurous, I always like field trips. When I started to think to become a wildlife biologist and a conservationist. So when I was a kid, your age, pretty much, I knew I wanted to study animals, but I didn't know how to call the job I wanted to do. Everybody, when they, you know, the adults, they were telling me, "Oh, you like animals? You want to do the veterinarian?" I was like, "No, I want to study the animals that are well. You know, why they do what they do." So finally, I found a definition in a book, in the science book I was using in school, of an ethologist. And I was like, that's what I want to be. So ethologist means someone that study animal behavior. And I was like, yes, I just want to study what the animals do and why they do it. So then ethologist, like, it's kind of like evolved in the idea of not just studying the behavior itself, but the animals that live in their environment. So more like the ecology part of it, and then conservation, because once you study these endangered species, automatically you want them to exist on the planet. So you're going to do everything you can to move in that direction. An important figure was Danilo Mainardi. He's an ethologist, an Italian ethologist that was always part of this science show that I really love watching, because they had like animals documentaries. And he was always talking afterwards. I was like, oh, this show, whatever he's doing is wonderful. I really, like, he was really inspirational. And he wrote a book. I read the book. And it was like, in the book he wrote, it was like, to become an ethologist, you need to study natural sciences. I was like, thank you very much. So I just followed the path and kind of like did everything to kind of like achieve my dream job. My goals are contributing to knowledge of endangered species living in their habitat to prevent their extinction, teaching about the fact that taking care of the environment and our planet is taking care of ourselves, because all of us depends on nature, really, and promote and facilitate education and sustainable living in Madagascar and developing countries in general. So to do what I do, I needed to get a PhD degree first, and then after that, people can go for a research career, or you can work for zoos. You can work for. It's not necessarily always the university that can, you know, you can work in other places, not just the university, and still achieve this goal. So the classes I took was like a lot of science involved. So primatology, which is the study of primates, including us. Zoology, studying animals, basically. Ecology, also the environment. And then all the science basics, biology, math, physics, statistics, evolutionary biology, and then to gain a lot of fieldwork experience. And this is my PhD advisor with me in the picture, and a colleague. And I'm done. I'm more than happy to take any question you may have. Should I stop share the screen maybe?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, it's good. But thank you so much, Giovanna, for this beautiful presentation. It was very, very informative, exciting to see all the places where you traveled. Thank you so much. And I'm wondering if anyone has any questions for Giovanna at this time.
First of all, we wanted to say thank you so much. I think we all really enjoyed it. I know you can't see our classroom right now, but we have lots of hands up. So I think what we'll do is, yes, I will come around with my computer. Also, our principal was able to stop in our classroom, so he's watching as well. So thank you so much for telling us all about lemurs, and we learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was so interesting, even for me. I loved it. I will
Nice.
come around student by student, and they will ask you the question. So if you have a question, keep your hand up. All right. So this is Sammy. She's asking the first question.
Hi. Did
Hi,
you choose
Sammy.
lemurs as your animals?
I didn't understand.
Did you choose lemurs as your animal?
Kind of like the lemurs choose me. Because when I knew I wanted to study animals in the wild, I didn't know which one yet because I really like all of them. I don't have like I didn't have a favorite one. So I went to my professor when I was at the university and I was like, do you have projects that I can work on like with animals in the wild, in the environment? And she said, you know what? We have this project with, lemurs in Madagascar. Would you be interested? And I thought it was super cool and said yes. And so after the first time I went to work with lemurs in Madagascar, I was like, that's it. I was so happy and it just made sense and everything to me. And I loved the field work experience. For me, it wasn't heavy. And that's kind of like how lemurs pick me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next we have Haley.
Hi. Why do you love your job?
Oh, this is a very good question. I love my job because it allows me to travel the world, to see and discover new things every day, and to meet people of different cultures and really have a big view around, about the world that is really enriching to me. And I learn so much thanks to my job. And I like it because I can share this experience with others, and I see that I can contribute in doing something important for the world, really. So it's a very, very rewarding job. That's why I like it so much.
Oh, so important to love your job.
Yeah.
All right, we have Lucas next.
What is the lemur's lifespan?
Oh, wow. Super technical question. It's not an easy one, So one thing about lemurs is that there are so many species and they're so different. Some of them are big like this. Others are big like this. So it really varies depending on the species. But there are some lemurs that can live for 40 years. And for certain species, we don't even know. So they can live pretty long. They can have pretty long lives normally. Even the smallest one, I would say that can live maybe at least a decade or two. So they live a long time. And the truth is that for certain species, we don't know yet how long they live because they are not in zoos. And we haven't been studying them long enough to know, they're still living, but we don't know how long they can go. So yeah, we can just estimate. Very good question.
He's taking notes. That's so interesting. Thank you. All right, we have Jax next.
Hi.
Hi, Jack.
I have a question. How long have you been studying lemurs?
Super good question. So I started working with lemurs in 2011. That was the first time, and I went there for my thesis at the university, for my master thesis. And then I did my PhD, and then now I'm working as a researcher. But I really started working with lemurs in 2011. 2011, so it has been 12 years already.
Wow.
That's a long time.
Wow, it is a long time. All right, we have Madison next.
What was your lifestyle living in the tent?
My lifestyle living in the tent, it's cool. I like camping no matter where. So if you like camping, I guess you have an idea. If you ever camped in your life, maybe, I don't know if you did already, but that's pretty much it. So you just really sleep in the tent. You don't do much in the tent. The tricky part is to keep things dry when it's raining a lot. That's the most uncomfortable thing. And try to keep the tent as clean as possible and always zip it so that the small insects, snakes, whatever, is not going to try to enter in your tent when you are not there. But normally we eat outside under like tarps, and then because we leave very early in the morning, around 5 a.m., and then we come back at around 5:30 p.m. So we really stay all day in the forest, and we just go in the tent to sleep, and then we take showers in the river because there are no showers. So normally campsites are next to a river, and then if you need to the bathroom, you just use nature.
Wow, I don't know if I could do that.
You have latrines, so there is a hole in the ground, and do your thing there.
Wow.
I don't know if that answered my question. Your question.
All right, we have Sophia next.
What's the best part of your job and what's the worst part of your job?
Good. So the best part, as I said, is to travel the world and visit all the people. That's really the best. I really love to be in the forest. And watch lemurs. That's the best part. The worst part, believe it or not, is also when the fieldwork experience gets really, really tough. Like if the weather is very bad, maybe there is a cyclone or a hurricane, whatever, and the working situation gets extremely difficult and you are very isolated, so you cannot call home anytime you want because there is no signal whatsoever. So there are sometimes a person feels a little bit isolated. And also, I don't like the big deadlines for very important things, but I guess that many jobs can relate to that, not just mine.
Oh. Every job has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
All right, we have Cadence next.
Okay. So, what is your favorite animal that you've studied?
That's difficult. So I've been studying other animals besides lemurs. When I was still an undergraduate student, I was studying frogs, for example. But I think that my favorite, it's hard to pick, but if I have to pick one, I think I would pick the sifaka. Just because they're, like, the injuries are cool because they sing and they do this very interesting. But really from like watching them every day, I think the sifaka are my favorite. Because they're beautiful and because they're very playful, and it's really fun to watch them.
Thank you. All right, we have Xavier next.
How long do lemurs sleep?
That also varies a lot depending on the species. For example, one species I study, they spend 55% of their time, like basically more than half of their time sleeping during the day. And then they also probably sleep a lot during the night. So basically they sleep a lot. The black and white lemurs, they sleep a lot, especially when it's very cold and rainy and there is no fruits around. Others, they sleep 30% of their time, so maybe 3 hours, about 3 hours during the day, and then they sleep at night. But they sleep all night. Sometimes we leave them they're sleeping at 4 a.m. 4 p.m. and then at 6 p.m. they're still sleeping the day. 6 a.m. Oh my gosh. 4 p.m. they're sleeping, and at 6 a.m. the day after are still sleeping. There are nocturnal species that sleep during the day and are up during the night. So it really depends on the species. And honestly, I don't know about all the 107 species of lemurs, what they do. So there is a lot of variability. But the one I studied sleep quite a lot.
Very interesting. All right, we have Lucas next.
Hello.
Hello.
Are there any other animals that you want to study other than lemurs?
There are so many lemurs, I can't do like, I have no time to think about the other lines. But if I had, that's a difficult question, you know. I do like birds. I think I would be interested in studying birds. Birds are cool. Yeah, I think I would go with birds.
Very cool. All right, Ethan has a question next.
Okay. Are lemurs friendly to humans?
Lemurs related to humans?
Friendly.
Friendly. It depends again. So normally, most of the time, they're just scared of us. So unless they're used to us being present, they run away. Once they understand we are not dangerous, they just ignore us completely. So they don't come close to us to play with us, for example. I do know that there are some species that come closer, and they actually, it happened to me like in other places. Some species they like our food, so basically they try to steal your food if you have good snacks in your backpack. So they're a little bit more friendly. They're not so scared to get closer to people. It really depends on the exposure they have to people. So lemurs that live in national parks that are used to have a lot of tourists around are definitely more friendly. But I discourage people from touching wild animals because it's not a good practice.
Thank you. We have a few more questions if you have a few more minutes.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Erin is next.
How is your job a green job?
Is green because basically saving these lemurs from going extinct, so from disappear from the planet, is very important for the environment. So we want to avoid that the species that already, these animals and plants that already live on the planet kind of like disappear. We want to avoid that. So jobs that are involved in that kind of activity are considered green jobs because basically they're maintaining the diversity of the planet and making sure that nature is not affected by humans in the long term. Like we are trying to save the planet, basically.
All right, our next, the next person asking a question is Gabby.
Hi.
Hi.
What inspired you to be a field biologist in third grade?
So it was a combination of this person that I was watching in the show and these documentaries. Every time I was watching these documentaries, I thought it was so fascinating, and I really wanted to be the person doing those things. I was like, I would like to go there and see these animals and understand why they do this thing. So in my head, kind of like had an idea, but then I needed my textbook, really, my science textbook, to name it. So it had like a list of definitions of names of scientists and what each of these people do. And so one of the lists was basically a zoologist, a person study animal. And I was like, this is a bit general. So it was ethologist, a person that studied the evolution of animal behavior. I was like, that's it. So basically, really, what is not that that was helping me to name what I wanted to do. Kind of like I always had an idea in my mind, but then I was able to name it so that I could understand how to achieve what I wanted to be.
All right, and we have one more question, and then our bell's going to ring. Bella, come over, say your last question. Okay. All right, this is our last question.
Do lemurs try to run away from you when you study them?
Yes, at the beginning, they really want to run away a lot. Sometimes we follow them. We try to, look for them all day long, from really sunrise to sunset, and we just see them 10 minutes in the whole day. It's very frustrating, but then eventually, after, you try again and again and again, they get a little bit more used to you. But they are never aggressive with us, which is good, because other primates, for example, I don't know, chimpanzees or, other kind of primates can be dangerous. Luckily, lemurs are not dangerous, and so are not aggressive. So it was relatively safe to do that. We just needed a lot of patience. But yeah, they run away a lot.
Well, thank you so much. Our bell just went off, so I'm sorry to have to cut off, but we had the best time. We really appreciate you sharing all the information that you learned and that you studied, and we're very impressed. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, everyone say bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Francesca.